Germany, here I come, and then onward to Italy.
Because it didn't start with gas chambers. It started when people looked away. Queer and trans people are being targeted again. This isn't just a history lesson, this is a siren. Welcome to History Echoes, part 26. Because the past never died, it's whispering back. Today, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that trans people are banned from serving in the military. Not because of their actions, but because of who they are. They say it's about readiness, but history has proven it's about control. Guess who else banned trans people from the military? You guessed it if you're familiar with my series, Yahtzee Germany. Then after banning them from the military, along with the rest of the LGBTQ plus community, they also banned them from schools, from society. They were deported, sterilized, and executed. Imperial Japan did the same thing, labeling them unfit to serve the emperor. Mussolini's Italy, have you ever heard of San Domino Island? Because that's where they were exiled to and abandoned as threats to the regime. In Russia, military bans became propaganda bans. Then the government outlawed transitions entirely. Now trans people can't marry, adopt, or even leave the country, to seek a better life.
All right, guys, so we got to talk about a trend that is going viral on the internet of trans refugees fleeing the United States of America, because apparently there is a travel alert, right? There are now these woke companies, agencies, and even some countries basically saying, hey, you should not travel to the United States of America if you are trans, okay? And that is partially because you have individuals who are basically comparing the United States of America to Nazi Germany when it comes to the treatment of trans people in this country, right? Due to President Trump's policies.
With DC World Pride just 5 weeks away, organizers say they're worried it's not safe right now for trans people to travel here to the U.S.
It's possible that we may actually issue a statement telling trans folks internationally not to come, or if they come at their own risk.
It comes as the Trump administration has enacted a number of anti-transgender policies, such as a military ban on trans service members. That Trump administration also says it only recognizes two unchangeable sexes, male and female. And moving forward, any new passports issued must reflect a person's sex at birth.
This is something that my community faces every day, is worrying whether or not the space is going to be safe for them.
Devin Ojeda works with advocates for trans equality. He says he and his trans friends often worry about being targeted or harassed, and he understands if people decide not to attend World Pride out of safety concerns. But he also feels it's important for the community to come together.
I also am in the mindset of always continuing to be in these spaces, to say, I am trans, I am visible, and you're not going to take that away from me.
Some local leaders say they're saddened by the news that World Pride may ask trans people to stay away.
It's really shameful that you all are having to consider making statements like that when that is literally the intent, is for an international safe space for everyone to come together. It's really heartbreaking.
World Pride organizers say they're expecting about 2 million people to attend, and they're working on extensive security measures. Those include fencing, security checks, police officers, as well as web surveillance to monitor for any threats being made online. Amy Cho, News 4.
Yeah, so you see, now you heard that, okay? So World Pride is currently happening right now in Washington, D.C. I think it's for a couple weeks or something, right? But before this event happened, you had these organizations issuing travel advisories, right? They're telling trans people and LGBTQ people, hey, don't go to the United States, right? And if you have to go, then proceed with caution, right? Because it's dangerous to be queer in the United States of America, right? This is the narrative that they're putting out, okay? And you have some people who are just leaving the country altogether. Again, they're calling themselves trans refugees. Last time I talked about this story, you had people going to Canada, right? A country that at least a couple years ago put out a travel advisory telling LGBTQ people, hey, be careful about coming to the United States of America. But now we have a new country that trans people are evacuating to, right, when they're fleeing to, and that is Germany, right, which also has put out a travel advisory for LGBTQ people coming to the United States of America. But apparently you have people fleeing the United States and going to Germany, where they're finding that they're facing less discrimination, according to them. Take a look.
The country of Germany and Interpride, a group that represents 400 worldwide pride organizations, has issued a travel advisory for transgender people around travel to the United States. Let's talk about why and what this means. Germany and Interpride both have issued travel advisories because as of right now, visas for people that are considering entering the United States for longer periods of time could be blocked for transgender people. If your visa gender marker does not match your assigned sex at birth, you could be denied entry. And in fact, if they deem this to be material for the reason of your entry, they could ban you from permanent entry to the United States. There are a lot of concerns around transgender people traveling to the United States. Many states right now have bathroom bans that are haphazardly enforced, with some states like the state of Florida perhaps putting you in jail for up to a year for using the bathroom of your gender identity. This is the first major travel advisory for trans people entering the United States, and I don't anticipate that this will be the last one. World Pride is slated to take place in D.C. in June, where many people from all over the world are going to visit. And if this isn't sorted out by then, I anticipate more organizations will pull out of World Pride. It's unreal that the United States, once a place of safe haven for LGBTQ people across the planet, is now so dangerous that countries are issuing travel advisories. But that's where we are.
Hey, to all my fellow trans people who are a bit scared today, if you're considering where to go next, just keep in mind that here in Germany, we passed the Selbestimmungsgesetz, I believe that's called, a few months back, which means that as a trans person, you just need to file a form with your local Standesamt, and you can change your name and gender marker easily, no matter where you're from, as long as you have a valid residence permit. Just a heads up from experience.
I'm a trans American living in Germany. Here are 3 things that I can do here that I can't in the US.
If I lose my German ID, I can get a new one with the correct gender marker. But if I lose my US passport, the replacement would have the wrong gender because the State Department is changing trans people's documents to match what's on their original birth certificate. In Germany, I can pick up my hormones with my public health insurance card. But in some parts of the US, Medicaid wouldn't cover it, so I wouldn't be able to. That said, getting care in Germany isn't always easy. Wait times can be long, and insurance doesn't always cover everything. If I was a teacher in Florida or Utah instead of Berlin, I would actually be committing a crime to use the bathroom.
Germany doesn't have bathroom bans, so no one is policing where I can pee.
That doesn't mean transphobia doesn't still exist here.
Every state in the U.S., including my home state of Ohio, has introduced bills restricting trans rights this year. But here in Germany, lawmakers hope to make the lives of trans, intersex, and non-binary people a little easier. The government has just drafted a self-determination law that would make it simpler for people 14 and older to change their legal name and gender. This would revise long-standing rules that require 2 experts and a court decision to do so, which can become expensive and lengthy. Instead, the process would be replaced by a simple registration and a 3-month waiting period. If the proposal is passed, Germany will become the 12th European nation.
Yeah, so you seen that, you heard that. Okay, you have people fleeing the United States of America as refugees going to other countries, these countries who are issuing travel advisories about trans people coming to the United States of America, okay? Like Germany, Finland, Denmark, right? Ireland, the Netherlands, again, these countries are basically saying that, hey, you guys should be very concerned about coming to the United States of America. And some of it has to do with the fact that if you leave the United States of America, right, and you go to another country and then you try to come back into the United States of America as a trans person, then you might not get let back in because of President Trump recognizing that there are only 2 sexes. So if you happen to have one of these woke passports that was given out during the Biden administration, you might have trouble getting back in. And some trans people are afraid. They're absolutely afraid to come back to the United States after fleeing. Take a look.
Batista Migration Law Group.
In this Toronto law firm, dozens of calls a day since inauguration, mostly from trans Americans.
Shortly, I've just been working through a bit of a backlog.
Lawyer Joyce Nakang says the Trump administration's slew of executive orders targeting trans people might allow them to claim asylum.
Typically, those claims have been hard because what you have to prove is that the state is unwilling or unable to protect you and that there's nowhere else in your country that you can go and live safely. Now, with these changes that have been happening and these orders that have been now passed down, I think we're seeing a lot clearer picture of the state being the agent of persecution.
And there's another issue. Because the federal government will only recognize 2 genders, Americans who may not look like the gender on their passport or who have the gender-neutral X marker are now afraid to cross the border.
We don't know if that just means increased scrutiny at the border or if it means a denial of entry or potentially confiscation of those documents.
Elliot Duvall is one of those Americans caught in documentation limbo.
I am scared to go back because, one, that my passport still says a female on it. It still says a female on it, and I don't look anything like a female. So to hand over my passport to the border guards is terrifying, and they're just gonna question me down to the bone. And I don't think I'd mentally be able to handle that, to be honest. I would just cry.
Elliot grew up in Wisconsin and Arkansas, but 12 years ago, fell in love with a Canadian and started a family in London. But he misses his family back home.
My mom, she wants me to come desperately bad. And this was the year that I was supposed to be going, I was gonna go for Thanksgiving, we were gonna try to make it for Christmas, all of us. And she said, don't come. And that's hard. It's hard when my mom, who, she watches the news, when she's like, don't come because it's not safe. That's really hard.
Yeah, so you seen that, you heard that. Now, here's the thing, okay? Here's the thing. I am not going to tell anybody who feels unsafe in the United States of America to stay, right? I'm not going to tell you to stay. I'm not going to tell you to come here. If you think that it's dangerous, if you think that declaring there's only two sexes, making that a policy of the United States of America, if that is dangerous, then, hey, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, if you want to leave, if you want to go, hey, right? I would rather you leave and feel safe than to stay here and feel unsafe, right? Now, again, I don't necessarily agree that it is unsafe to be in the United States as a trans person, but I'm not trans. So who am I to tell a trans person how to feel, right? If you think it's so dangerous that you don't want to travel to the United States after you flee, right? Or if you've never been here and you have the opportunity to come here, but you don't want to come here because you think it's unsafe, you think that the Border Patrol is going to, I don't know, harass you or going to kidnap you or something, I don't know, at the border. If you believe that, then hey, don't come, right? You don't have to come, because I don't know what's gonna happen. I can't guarantee you that everything is gonna go smoothly, because according to these people, it is dangerous to be trans in the United States of America. So I'm not here to tell you to feel any differently. I'm just saying, if you really, really feel that way and you want to go, you want to leave, then hey, you have countries like Canada and Germany. They seem to be welcoming trans people with open arms. And if trans people are happier in those other countries and not the United States of America, then it is what it is, right? It is what it is. Who am I to tell them that they're wrong? Who am I to tell them that they should stay, right? If you clearly don't feel safe here, then I would rather you live out your life feeling safe, right? Living somewhere where you're going to be happy. And if that's Germany, okay, if that's Canada, if that's some other woke country, hey, it is what it is. It is what it is. So, hey, if you want to go ahead and flee, right? There's another 3.5 years of the Trump administration. Now might be a good time to do so, right? You might want to go ahead and get on that, right? Because, we got 3 long years, okay? I'm sure that if you're afraid of being in the United States of America, if you think that it's going to just get worse, okay? If you're comparing the United States of America to Nazi Germany, if that's how you really feel, yeah, you might want to go ahead and get out, right? You might want to go ahead and flee, even though, personally, I don't think that America's Nazi Germany or that, people should be fleeing. But if you feel that way, right? If you personally feel that way, then, hey, do what you got to do. Do what you got to do. I'm not going to stop you. In fact, I may, point you in the right direction, right? Point you towards some resources, some information, and help you, get to a better place where you're going to feel, better, right? Where you're going to feel safer, okay? I'm just saying, I think that works out for everybody at this point, right? To be honest with you. So, that's my take on it, okay? I'm not here to tell anybody how to feel. And if they want to leave, if they feel like they got to flee, they got to seek asylum, they're going to be refugees. If they got to do that, then, it is what it is. But what you guys think? Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.